You're making a mistake right now, and I need you to hear me. The biggest mistake people make when chasing their purpose, their breakthrough, their destiny is trying to force the blessing before it's fully formed. They rush. They panic. They doubt God's timing. And you know what happens? They miss what was already theirs. I know you've watched videos, read books, maybe even prayed hard, but still feel like nothing is changing. I've been there. The silence. The delays. The waiting. It almost broke me. But what I'm about to tell you, it changed everything. This is not just another motivational video. This message is divine alignment. What you're about to hear isn't fluff. It's truth that will anchor your soul, shift your mindset, and ignite your spirit. But only if you stay. So don't just scroll past or click away. Give me your attention, not because I need it, but because you do. Your future self will thank you for staying right here. Because by the end of this video, you will no longer see the delays in your life as rejection, but as redirection. You will understand why things didn't work out when you wanted them to, and why God's not yet is often His greatest mercy. You will see that trusting God's timing isn't weakness. It's the most powerful, faith-filled decision you can make. So lean in, listen close, and don't move until you hear the last word, because your blessing, your breakthrough, your next level depends on it. Let's get straight into it. You say you trust God, but do you trust Him when nothing's happening? Because real trust doesn't begin when the blessing arrives. It begins in the silence before the storm breaks. Let's talk about that foundation you're building on if you want to unlock the full power of God's timing in your life. It starts here, with trust. Not surface-level trust. Not I'll trust God when everything is going my way trust. I'm talking about the kind of trust that holds strong when everything falls apart. The kind of trust that says, even when I don't see it, I still believe you're working. But let me be honest with you. You can't trust someone you don't know. That's the truth. I tried it. I tried trusting God during a rough season, but I didn't truly know His heart. And every delay felt like punishment. Every silence felt like rejection. I questioned His goodness because I didn't really know His character. That's when everything changed for me. I stopped focusing on what God could give me and started getting to know who He really is. Because when you begin to study His Word, when you begin to encounter His Spirit, when you hear His promises and see His faithfulness, your heart starts to change. You begin to realize that God's not ignoring you. He's not punishing you. He's not trying to make your life harder. He's working things out for your good in ways your eyes can't yet see. That's why Proverbs 3:5-6 is more than just a cute verse. It's a life-altering truth. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will direct your paths. Did you catch that? God doesn't ask for a little bit of your trust. He asks for all of it. And He doesn't say understand everything I'm doing. He says, acknowledge me, honor me, invite me into the process, and I will make your path clear. That kind of trust rewires your entire mindset. Instead of worrying about what's next, you start walking in confidence, knowing that God's plan is bigger, wiser, and more loving than anything you could come up with. It frees you from the burden of trying to figure it all out. It invites peace into your waiting. It plants the seed for unshakable faith. So let me ask you straight up, are you trusting God with part of your heart, or with all of it? Because if you really want the blessing to transform your life, it's going to require full surrender. And that starts with trusting His heart before you ever see His hand. But even if you trust His heart, what do you do when His timing makes no sense? What if the very thing you're calling a delay is actually divine precision? Hold on, there's something you need to see clearer. Let's get something straight. God doesn't move according to your clock. He's not late. He's not early. He is always on time. But here's the hard part. You and I only see a tiny sliver of the story. We see the here and now, the disappointments, the delays, the heartbreak. But God, He sees the whole picture. He sees 10 steps ahead, 100 choices deeper, and 1,000 outcomes beyond your imagination. There was a time in my life when I prayed hard for something I thought I needed right now. I fasted, cried, begged God to show up. And when He didn't give it to me in my timing, I felt abandoned. But what I didn't realize then was that what I wanted would have destroyed me if I received it too soon. That no or not yet wasn't cruelty, it was divine protection. A delay is not a denial. It's God saying, I love you too much to let you settle for something small when I've got something greater in store. You want to know why His timing is perfect? Because He's not interested in giving you temporary satisfaction. He's interested in producing something in you that lasts. He's not in a rush to make you comfortable. He's in the business of making you ready. Ready to carry the weight of the blessing. Ready to handle the influence. Ready to walk through the open door without falling apart. You think you're waiting on God. No. He's waiting on you. Waiting for your maturity to match your calling. Waiting for your character to catch up to your desire. He's orchestrating something so much bigger than your temporary timeline. So breathe. Slow down. Trust the pace of heaven. Because when God moves, everything shifts. And when His timing finally hits your life, you'll realize it wasn't a delay at all. It was divine precision. You're not just waiting, you're being watched. What you do in the waiting determines what you're ready to carry. So the real question is, can you wait without breaking? Let's be real. Waiting is hard. It's painful. It's confusing. And if you're like me, you've probably had moments where you look up at the sky and said, God, how much longer? That question used to torment me. I'd sit in silence, frustrated, feeling like life was passing me by while I was stuck on pause. But one day, I realized something that changed my perspective forever. Waiting isn't passive. It's powerful. You see, we think waiting is sitting around doing nothing. But spiritually, waiting is warfare. It's a discipline. It's a proving ground where your faith is tested and stretched. God doesn't waste the wait. He uses it to build you. Romans 5:3-4 tells us plainly, we glory in tribulations, knowing that tribulation produces perseverance, and perseverance, character, and character, hope. Do you hear that? Your delay is not just a delay. It's a development process. You want strong faith. You want spiritual depth. Then you need seasons of waiting. That's where your roots grow deep. That's where your trust gets real. That's where you learn to worship without a breakthrough, pray without results, and obey without explanation. And when you can do that, when you can praise God even when nothing's happening, you become dangerous to the enemy. I had to learn how to wait actively, praying, preparing, staying obedient even when it hurt. I had to choose faith over frustration, over and over. And the more I did that, the more peace I found in the waiting. My heart shifted. My focus changed. I stopped obsessing over what I didn't have and started focusing on who I was becoming. God is not punishing you by making you wait. He's positioning you, shaping you, strengthening you. The blessing is on the way, but He's making sure you'll be able to handle it when it comes. So, don't waste the wait. Worship in it. Grow in it. Stand in it. Because this is where giants of faith are formed. Life can feel overwhelming. We're surrounded by challenges, pain, negativity, and distractions pulling us in every direction. But through every struggle, there's one answer: God. Here on Jesus Daily Blessings, I share messages to guide you, uplift you, and remind you of God's promises for your life. If you want to stay closer to God, subscribe to our channel, and let's walk this faith journey together. Faith will carry you far, but control will sabotage everything. And if you're tired, burned out, or constantly anxious, it might not be your circumstances. It might be what you refuse to release. Let me ask you a hard question. Are you trusting God, or are you just trying to control the outcome and calling it faith? Because I had to confront that truth in my own life. I said I trusted God, but deep down, I was holding the pen, trying to write the story myself. Every time something didn't go my way, I'd panic. I'd try to force it, fix it, manipulate the timing. And all that led to was burnout, anxiety, and disappointment. Control is an illusion. You can't force what's meant to be formed. You can't rush what God is still writing. And the more you grip your plans tightly, the more you choke out your peace. That's why surrender is not weakness, it's warfare. It's not giving up, it's letting go of your timeline so that God can release His divine one. Psalm 37:5 says, "Commit your way to the Lord, trust in Him, and He will act." You don't have to make it happen. You don't have to be the author of your breakthrough. Your job is obedience. His job is outcome. Letting go of control requires humility. You have to admit you don't have all the answers. Let your plan, as well thought out as it may be, still falls short of the wisdom of the Almighty. And when you let go, when you finally put the pen in His hands and say, "God, write the story the way you want," that's when peace flows. That's when direction becomes clear. That's when the burden lifts. I've learned that what God builds in His timing will last longer, shine brighter, and bring more joy than anything I could build on my own. So, today, release the timeline. Lay down the pressure. Let go of your schedule. Because the moment you stop trying to control everything is the moment you give God permission to do anything. You thought the delay was the problem. But what if it's the proof that God is fighting for you behind the scenes? Not everything falling apart is falling out of place. It took me a long time to realize that not every delay is the devil's doing. In fact, many of the delays in your life aren't attacks. They're assignments, divine interruptions, strategic slowdowns. And if you don't see them through spiritual eyes, you'll start rebuking what God is actually using to redirect and refine you. There were seasons in my life where I felt like everything was falling apart. Doors that looked perfect slammed shut. Plans that made perfect sense completely unravel. I thought I was being punished. But looking back now, I see it crystal clear. God was never abandoning me. He was rerouting me. He was steering me away from lesser things so I could walk into greater things. God's hand is all over the delay, but you've got to train your eyes to see it. You have to stop assuming that closed doors are rejections. Sometimes, a door closes because God knows what's on the other side would derail your purpose, drain your joy, or distract your focus. What looks like a no is often God's louder "not this way. Trust me." I remember one job opportunity that I prayed for desperately. It was everything I wanted, or so I thought. But God blocked it. Months later, the company shut down. If I had gotten that position, I would have been left in chaos. That's when I learned, if God closes a door, don't try to pry it back open with your own strength. Instead, praise Him for His protection. Delays also refine you. They expose your heart. They confront your idols. They teach you to wait, to listen, to surrender. You become stronger, wiser, more aware of His presence, not because everything is moving fast, but because God is working deep. So next time something doesn't go your way, pause. Look again. Could it be the hand of God pulling you back, not to punish you, but to preserve you for something far more powerful? If you trust His timing, you must also trust His delays. They are not empty pauses. They are sacred spaces where God is setting you up, not setting you back. You've planted. You've prayed, but still no fruit. Could it be that what God is growing in you just hasn't reached the surface yet? Let me show you what's really happening beneath the soil. One of the hardest things to accept is this: every blessing begins as a seed. It doesn't show up overnight. It doesn't come full grown. God works in seasons. And if you try to harvest in the wrong one, you'll end up disappointed, exhausted, and spiritually dry. Imagine this. Someone hands you a seed and promises that it will grow into a towering tree. But instead of watering it, nurturing it, and letting time do its work, you dig it up every other day, frustrated that nothing's happened yet. That's exactly what many of us do with our prayers, with our dreams, with our promises from God. We plant them, but we don't trust the process. I'd done this too. I'd get a vision, a word from God, and then try to force it into fruition. I didn't understand that spiritual things grow in stages. Just like a seed must go underground, unseen, before it breaks through the surface, so must your blessing. It may feel like nothing is happening, but deep down, God is forming the roots. He's stabilizing the foundation, so the blessing won't collapse under pressure. Galatians 6:9 says, "Let us not grow weary in doing good, for in due season we shall reap, if we do not give up." Did you catch that? Due season. Not your season. Not your friend's timeline. God's divine, appointed, strategic moment. But here's the danger. Impatience can uproot what God is still developing. When you try to rush the harvest, you damage the fruit. When you get tired of waiting, you walk away right before the breakthrough was about to burst through the soil. The enemy knows this. That's why he attacks you the hardest right before the shift happens. So here's your call today. Don't give up. Don't dig up the seed. Keep watering it with faith, with prayer, with obedience. Because when God brings it to life, it won't be small. It'll be abundant. From seed to harvest, the wait may be long, but the blessing will be worth every second. But what if the soil is quiet? What if the rain has stopped? What do you do when even heaven seems silent? That's not abandonment. It's something far deeper. There's a kind of silence that breaks you, not the absence of noise, but the absence of answers. Have you ever been there? When heaven feels like it's on mute and your prayers seem to bounce off the ceiling? I have. And let me tell you, it hurts. You question everything. You wonder, did God forget me? Did I miss something? Why is He so quiet right now? But here's the truth most people won't tell you. God's silence is not His absence. Just because he's quiet doesn't mean he's gone. In fact, some of the deepest work God will ever do in your life happens in silence. It's where your faith gets tested, not by fire, but by stillness. Can you still believe when you hear nothing? I remember a season when everything around me went still. The vision God gave me looked dead. No open doors. No confirmation. Just quiet. I almost gave up. But something in my spirit whispered, "Keep trusting." I'm still here. And slowly, I began to see it. God was drawing me deeper. Not into activity, but into intimacy. He was calling me to listen, not for what I wanted to hear, but for who He is. Silence is sacred space. It forces you to lean in, to surrender control, to strip away every distraction and say, "God, even if you don't speak today, I'll still follow." That kind of faith is rare, but it's powerful. It's the faith of people like Elijah, who heard God not in the earthquake or the fire, but in a gentle whisper. It's the kind of faith that shakes hell and activates heaven. So if God is quiet right now in your life, don't panic. Don't withdraw. Lean in closer. Be still. Trust deeper. Because silence is often the prelude to the supernatural. And when He breaks the silence, your life will never be the same. You're not the first to wait like this. And if you could see the blueprint of heaven, you'd know the greatest stories were built on waiting that felt unbearable. Sometimes, the best way to strengthen your faith is to remember the stories of those who waited and saw God move in His time, not theirs. Because you're not alone in this. The people we read about in Scripture, they were just like you and me, impatient, unsure, sometimes even doubtful. But the difference is, they held on long enough to see the promise fulfilled. Think about Abraham and Sarah. God promised them a child, yet nothing happened for years. Decades, actually. They were old, far beyond the age of having children. Can you imagine the doubt? The shame? The questions from everyone around them? But still, God had a plan. At the appointed time, not a moment too early or too late, Isaac was born. And when he came, the blessing silenced every doubt and proved that what God says, He will do. Or take Joseph. Betrayed by his brothers, thrown into a pit, sold into slavery, falsely accused, and locked in prison for years. And yet, behind the scenes, God was aligning everything perfectly. If Joseph had gotten bitter, if he had given up, he would have missed the palace. But instead, he stayed faithful, and God elevated him at the exact moment Egypt needed him most. The delay had purpose. The suffering had strategy. The silence was not a void, it was the setup. Even Jesus, yes, the Son of God Himself, waited 30 years of obscurity before stepping into His ministry. Why? Because the time wasn't right. The world wasn't ready. And when the time finally came, the world was changed forever. You're not the exception. You're part of the same story. And if God was faithful then, He'll be faithful now. Your story is being written, even in the waiting. You may not see the ink on the page yet, but heaven is still scripting a masterpiece. So hold on. Because if God did it for them, He will do it for you. You've heard the stories. You've felt the fire. But now you need to know, when your moment finally comes, will it be worth it? Let me tell you what God does when the wait is over. Let me speak this into your spirit right now. The blessing that's coming will be worth every second of the wait. I know it's hard to believe when you're still stuck in the middle. When you're praying and nothing's changing. When you're crying and nobody seems to notice. But I promise you, God doesn't make empty promises. And when He says He's preparing something good for you, He means it. I used to chase after things that sparkle but didn't last. I rushed decisions, forced outcomes, and tried to create my own version of blessed. But every time, it ended in frustration. You know why? Because I was settling for crumbs when God was preparing a feast. His blessings don't come with confusion. They come with clarity. They don't drain you. They fill you. They don't leave you anxious. They anchor you in peace. Proverbs 10:22 says it best, "The blessing of the Lord makes rich, and He adds no sorrow with it." That's how you'll know it's from God. It won't come with strings, stress, or sorrow. It'll come with provision, peace, and purpose. And here's the beautiful part. When the blessing comes in God's time, it aligns perfectly. Doors open that no man can shut. Relationships restore. Finances flow. Purpose becomes clear. You finally see why you had to wait. You'll look back on this season and realize it wasn't wasted. It was preparation. The tears, they watered the soil. The pain, it built your strength. The silence, it sharpened your hearing. And now, the blessing will hit different because you've been through the process. You're ready for it. So don't quit right before the finish line. Don't give up when you're one prayer away. Keep walking, keep trusting, keep praising. Because when the blessing arrives, you'll know it didn't just show up. It was perfectly timed by a God who never fails. And yes, it'll be worth it. But this isn't just about the future. What if the miracle isn't in what's coming, but in how you live while you wait? Let me show you how to walk like it's already done. Now that you understand God's timing, how do you live in it every single day? How do you carry the trust with you when you wake up in the morning and still don't have the answer? How do you keep your peace when everyone else seems to be moving forward faster than you? Let me tell you how. You make a decision. Daily. Not once. Every single day. You wake up and say, "God, I trust you more than my feelings, more than my fears, more than my need to control." You surrender, not because you're weak, but because you're wise. You know that your life is safest in the hands of the one who sees the end from the beginning. Living in confidence doesn't mean everything around you is perfect. It means you're grounded. Your emotions don't dictate your faith. Your circumstances don't shift your posture. You keep showing up. You keep being faithful. You keep obeying, even when there's no visible reward yet. I've learned that obedience in uncertainty is one of the highest forms of trust. It's easy to follow when the path is clear. But real faith, it's walking in the fog, holding God's hand, knowing He's leading you somewhere good. That's how you live in His timing. That's how you stay confident, not in yourself, but in Him. Every day is a choice. You can live stressed out, constantly questioning, always rushing, or you can live anchored, confident, steady, even when the answers haven't come yet. Because the peace of God doesn't wait for perfect circumstances. It is the perfect circumstance. So, today, choose confidence. Choose trust. Choose surrender. And watch how your days begin to align, not with your pressure, but with His purpose. Because when you live in God's timing daily, you stop chasing the blessing and you start walking with the blesser. And if this word stirred your spirit, don't let it stop with you. Our mission is to flood the earth with God's truth, to awaken faith, restore hope, and raise a generation that walks boldly in His timing. When you give, through super thanks or membership, you're not just donating, you're sowing into eternity. Galatians 6:9 says, "Let us not grow weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up." Every gift, no matter the size, helps us reach one more soul, ignite one more fire, and shine one more light into the darkness. If you've been blessed, be a blessing. Partner with us today. Now, before you go, I want you to do something powerful, not for me, but for you. If this message spoke to your heart, if it stirred something deep inside you, don't let that moment pass. Drop this in the comments right now. I trust God's timing. My blessing is coming. Declare it publicly. Put your faith in motion. Sometimes, the simple act of speaking life shifts everything inside of you. And when you write it, you're not just commenting, you're claiming your promise. Also, don't keep this breakthrough to yourself. There's someone in your life who's struggling with God's timing. Someone who's about to give up. Send them this video. Be the reason they hold on just a little longer. And if you're in a waiting season, let me know in the comments. I want to pray with you. I want this community to stand with you, because you're not alone, and the blessing will come. So again, type it below. I trust God's timing. My blessing is coming. Say it with your heart. Write it in faith. And then live like it's already on the way. Amen. Please like this video and leave a heartfelt amen in the comments. If you want to stay closer to God, subscribe to our channel.